How you doing? Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you're here. I'm Jimmy. We're making it work. I want to talk to you about the shortage of mechanics in the auto repair industry and my opinion on why I think that's the case. If you're interested, stay tuned. So the industry has been in decline for quite a while. I've been doing this for 43, 44 years, and I can tell you when I first started on cars, they had V-belts and carburetors. They seem more complicated to people now that don't have experience with them, but in reality, they were really pretty simple. You didn't really need computers and things like that to figure out what was going on. You had to be pretty mechanically inclined and not mind getting greasy and dirty, and you were paid pretty well. There was a point where mechanics got 50% of the shop's labor, and they also had medical benefits and all that kind of thing as well. But little by little, the industry has pulled back on the percentage they pay the technicians and mechanics from the labor, and then they've also taken away a lot of the benefits and perks that come with that job as well. As time has gone on, and some of these companies have, especially the big chains and national chains and stuff, as they're more profit focused and worry about stocks and their shareholders and all this kind of stuff, some of these big companies, they've pulled back on what they pay the mechanics, and oddly enough, it's gotten more expensive to be a mechanic. The tools are getting more complicated, tools are getting more expensive, there's way more specialty tools, and they're being paid a smaller percentage of the labor. Matter of fact, the total tickets sometimes can get pretty crazy. My personal experience over the 40 some odd years, I can do a repair that's $4,000 and I make $200. So part of that's the price of the parts, part of that's the labor markup, along with other things like shop supplies and other fees. Some places charge you for using a credit card now. I'm not sure why credit card companies are tolerating it, but so far it hasn't become an issue for the credit card companies. As far as mechanics and their pay and why it's going down, they say that the overhead for the shops is going up, but the overhead for the mechanics is going up too, astronomically in fact. I have probably $125,000 worth of tools, and there's still a lot of times I don't have tools. Luckily I have people I work with, co-workers I work with, that might have a specialty tool I don't have, and I'll have one they don't have sometimes, so we don't have to have every single specialty tool to get our jobs done every day. Once in a while the shop will buy them, but they're usually pretty resistant to that. Even though you might only get 25 or 30% of the labor, the shop still wants the mechanics to pay for the tool, which is kind of unusual when you make 70% of the labor, to expect the employee to pay for the specialty tools out of their 30%. I don't really understand that. It's something that's been happening in the industry for decades. It's not a new thing. It's gotten worse and worse and worse over the years, and mechanics costs have gone up, shops costs have gone up, but mechanics pay has gone down, and what the shops charge has gone up. So the shops are getting record profits and the mechanics are not. And the cars are getting more complicated to work on, and manufacturers are pulling back on the labor times. They can just pull random numbers out of the air, and like the Toyota Tundras, they pay 13 hours to do those engines under warranty, and it's about an 18-hour job if you're really good at it. So every single time a mechanic or technician does that repair, they know they're going to lose money. They're not going to get paid the full time they spend working on the vehicle. There's no other industry that happens. So people drop out of the industry and go, I'm not doing that. I'm tired of this. They quit. They go do something else. They go be a carpenter or a plumber. Someone who's a mechanic, that's a lot of people, I don't think they give them enough credit. Some people think mechanics are dumb, but if you're putting engines in Tundras, you're pretty smart. You have to be. Definitely got some coordination, good memory, and a lot of tools. But the problem is when you assume that those mechanics are kind of trapped and you think you can do whatever you want to them, you're wrong. So the bottom line is a mechanic can easily go learn how to do carpentry. Maybe not, then I'm not going to say carpenters are dumb either, but I'm going to say mechanics, if they're skilled enough in their trade as a mechanic, they're going to be skilled enough to learn carpentry and be a carpenter, just the same way they can learn to be a plumber or do HVAC or work in the repair industry in other ways, like keeping machines up and running in an industrial facility, working at a park, like we're not far from Disney and Universal. There's plenty of things needing repair in there and maintenance in there that mechanics can do. So if you're at a dealership and you're making $17 or $20 an hour and you're expected to have $40,000 worth of tools, and they keep coming up with new tools you need to buy to take out of your $20 an hour, you might end up going to work at Disney for $22 an hour and not have to have any of your own tools they supply them. So the dealerships and some of these other repair shops and chain stores and stuff, they're really doing a disservice to themselves. I know they don't have a problem burning mechanics and taking advantage of mechanics while they can. Great for you, but eventually, I don't care how good your salesmen are, I don't care how good your managers are, I don't care how good your regional managers and district managers and all the other managers you have that help you make money. I don't care how good they are. If there's no one there doing the physical work and repairing the vehicles, you're out of business. Mechanics are capable of selling their own work, maybe not as good as a salesman would be, because most mechanics, believe it or not, people think mechanics are thieves, but I don't know how that is. If you do a 4,000 repair and you get $200, that the mechanic's the thief, but that's a separate video too. The mechanic, and I've done it, is very capable of selling their own work and writing a work order. They can do the whole job. They can greet the customer, find out what their complaint is, bring the car in, find out what's wrong, order the parts. Once they get approval, do the repair, bill the customer out. It's not hard. You know, not to downgrade anything that anyone else is doing, but that mechanic can do the whole job start to finish. The reason they don't is efficiency. So all those salesmen and managers and people taking care of parts inventory and cores and all that kind of stuff, that's so the mechanic can keep hustling out in the shop, getting things done. So it's just something to think about. You know, if this industry is going to survive, that mindset has to change, that mechanics are dumb and you can take advantage of them. Do whatever you want, nothing will happen. You're going to make tons of money. Well, eventually, when people of my age, boomers and Gen X, all start retiring, there's going to be mechanics, but there won't be enough. And most of the reason for that is the way they do things in this industry. Making cars way more complicated. Some cars have 40 or 50 computer modules on them, and then you want to pay somebody $20 or $25 an hour to sort that out. That's not going to happen. Luckily for me, you know, there's a lot of places you can find ways to make a good living, but some of these big chain stores and dealerships and stuff, they're going to learn a hard lesson, because as time passes, the labor pool, the mechanic pool that they get to pick from is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're going to struggle to find good help. You'll probably be able to find a body to be in the shop to take that spot, but to get an intermittent problem on a CAN communication network with a car that shuts off intermittently for no reason whatsoever and doesn't set any codes, and you're going to try to get someone to figure that out that you don't want to pay, good luck. So all of you, if there happens to be someone smart enough at the top levels in these dealerships and chain stores, if you happen to be smart enough to think about the future, not just your stocks and your dividends today when you look at the numbers, think about 5 years, 8 years, 10 years from now. If you're a person in your 30s or 40s, you're going to still be working. Are you going to have any mechanics? Maybe it's time for the industry to do a better job. Training, pay, benefits, specialty tools need to be, especially if someone's like, if you work at a Ford dealership, that dealer should have every single specialty tool related to a Ford. And I've worked at dealerships and they don't. I've worked at Chevrolet and they expect you to buy tools to work on Chevrolets on occasion. So, especially since sometimes they'll have one, and if they have a fleet of engines being recalled, and you have one specialty tool to help do that job or repair that timing system or whatever it might be, and there's 4 mechanics doing the work, you should have 4 tools, right? So a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of stuff to digest there. You tell me what you think in the comments. I know a lot of people that watch my videos are mechanics. I hope there's some executives and people that are more important than mechanics watching that, you know, maybe they're not aware. Maybe they don't think it's going to happen that way, but the cars are just getting really, really ridiculous to work on. And I'm towards the end of my career, 5 more years or so, I'll be 67. And I'm going to never probably retire 100%, but I'll go to part-time. And eventually I'm going to have to retire. My body's going to determine when that happens, probably. And I hope some of these younger guys are getting paid well enough, and girls are getting paid well enough to justify getting into this field getting the proper training, acquiring the tools they do need to have for general purpose hand tools and air tools and electric tools, things like that. They have to be motivated to do it. Otherwise, they're just going to work somewhere else and not have quite the overhead that it takes in this industry to be good at what you do. It's just something to think about, folks. I hope you'll torque the like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. I do opinion videos 4 or 5 times a year. I don't like to do tons of them, but I try to, when something's burning in my mind, I make a video about it. So lots of videos like day in the shop videos and shorts on the channel if you want to check those out. I hope I see you in one of those, because you're awesome.